Okay, sorry. Need the creds. Copy. Oh, because I have to do a new one. You rat. Discard. Give me 1 second. They make me do new creds on Instagram every single time. It's really annoying. There you go. And I'll just go public and next. And 3, 2, 1. Copy and paste. And then we go to here. Where'd Notion go? There it is. Copy. Okay. Then we go live. Then we punch this in here. And paste. And go live. And then we'll be... Failed to continue to do this. Okay, hold on. Go live. There we go. Boink. Just turn that off today. Okay, confirm and go live. Okay. Close. Settings. Do this. Output. Video. Don't do that. Done. 3, 2, 1. And we won't have Instagram this morning because it's just being a dick. And now... Oh, wait. Multi-stream error. Please try again if it's your process. Okay. Wow. It's always a something. All right, here we go. Let's see. This guy. That's logged in. Restream. It's good. Comments in settings. RTMP. Okay. Extras. Nope. Title. Okay. All right, hold on. Settings. It's one of those mornings. It just is. All right. Because they're trying to mess with me. All right, here we go. We'll edit this guy. I'll change the restream. Oh, it says I'm up on here. It's so weird. Oh, so I am up. It's just lying to me. That's really funny. It literally, the go live button is green at the bottom of my screen, and it and I push it and it says you can't go live. I'm like, that's because I'm already live. All right, thanks for that, guys. Hi, chat room. Can you guys hear us at least? Let me know. I think we're okay. The major is with me right now. I'm up. Thank you very much. Now I see it. Thank you. As it throws into the chat a couple minutes late. Yeah, it literally at the bottom, the button that goes live is just. I'm gonna guess software error. That's where I'm going. How are you this morning, Major?
Doing good. Can't complain.
Excellent. You can. I'm sure you're capable, but I appreciate it. I think that shows taste and breeding on your part that you aren't.
Yeah, I had to get up this morning and actually take my son's car and get a new tire put on it.
Oh, yeah.
Things we do for our kids, yeah.
Yep. It beats having to go out and change it in the middle of the night somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because those moments are big ones where you're like...
Well, that was yesterday evening.
Yeah.
But,
my girl's kid had a flat on his car about a year ago, and it was one of those like 2 o'clock in the morning, like AAA's not going to be here for an hour, and I'm like, I'm here. I'll just drive. He's right over there. I'll just drive over and change his tire for God's sake. And so, 2 o'clock in the morning, you just get the son of a. Okay, you're good. But good on you for doing it. And what's funny is like especially if you have a good kid and you're proud of where they are, that doing stuff for them in those moments doesn't sting very much. It doesn't feel like, I failed as a parent. They're not incapable. You're just kind of like, this kind of reminds me of a moment they needed me when they were younger,
Well, you're right.
Sweet.
At the end of the day, I enjoy doing little things like that for my kids because I'm very proud of them.
Yeah.
My son's got, he's got 4 college degrees.
Wow.
He works. He does great work. He's continually, moving up. And like I said, if I could, take a little bit of a time and, I'm retired, so it's nothing for me to run down here to a place and get a new tire put on.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, just like you said, we love our kids. We're proud of our kids. And, as they get older, you start realizing that, you're not needed as much as you used to be. When they were babies, it was everything. They needed you for everything. And
Right.
as they get older, those things start to disappear. But, I just enjoy it. I'm very, very proud of my kids.
Yeah.
I love them dearly.
Yeah, it's nice that way. It's I've had a couple of moments with my dad in his kitchen in the last couple of years when I'm visiting with my son and stuff, and he gives you that kind of like I'm proud of who you become kind of moment, and it's a great space to be in, and it's nice to look at your own children and go, I'm gonna be able to say that to my kid at some point.
Yeah.
I
totally agree.
So, a couple of things right out of the gate. One of them has to do with sort of Ukraine. Is that today, or I guess yesterday, in the last 24 hours, the Moscow Stock Exchange has announced the suspension of all trading in U.S. dollars and euros effective June 13th. Because and by the way, people are like, the Jimmy Dores of the world are going to go off on this whole like they're killing the petrodollar, blah blah blah, or whatever. That it's because of sanctions. Like there's only like 3 things they're allowed to use dollars for, and Russia's basically at this point going, if we can't sell humans and we can't sell guns and we can't traffic in drugs to pay for the humans and the guns, what the fuck do we need the dollar for? Which is really what it is. Like, I think the one thing you can buy and sell in Russia right now with U.S. dollars internationally is like fruit. I'm not kidding. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do oil, can't do gas, can't do natural gas, can't do fucking coal, right? It's hilarious. So they're like, again, it's that you can't fire me, I quit moment from them to make it sound like it was their idea.
Everything is going wrong, and Ukraine is absolutely eating Russia's lunch.
Yeah.
I believe I saw something yesterday where Russia was basically saying they're going to pull away from Crimea. They're going to give that up. I mean, I'm watching the drone fight.
Yeah.
And it's astronomical. I mean, these drones are going everywhere and just wiping Russia. They're just wiping Russia out. The multiple launch rocket systems. Those systems, those little small trucks that fire the rockets, pow, 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 like that. Those are worth $15 million, and Russia has lost over 1,000 of those.
Yeah,
I do the tally every single night on my show, and today, which of course now it's tomorrow over there now.
Yeah,
but today, the 12th of June, was the first day in like 25 days where Russia didn't lose over 1,000 troops. They lost 980 troops today.
Right.
But it was below the 1,000. For the past 25 days, it's been as high as 1,750.
Yeah.
And on average, about 1,250 a day.
Do you think that's because Ukrainians don't shoot retreating men? I know the Russians shoot their own retreating people. I think...
Yeah. Well, I was wondering I was kind of checking the angle you were talking about.
Yeah.
No, they're just absolutely eating them alive. And we know that 87%, this is what they said a couple months ago, 87% of the initial invading force has already been killed.
Yeah.
So, we know that he's had to call up like 400,000 people to serve and they're given 2 weeks worth of training, handed a rifle, and sent to the front line. Mm-hmm. They're not trained properly, and they are absolutely getting destroyed. I'm watching all these videos that are showing the drones and taking out all these vehicles, and you're watching these tanks operate, and I'm like, they have no tactics, none at all. Like literally, they're driving down the main roads, and they want to know. And oh, by the way, if you look to your left and your right, it's really just land.
Yeah.
But they're driving down the main roads, and you wonder why they're losing so many vehicles due to mines, because the Ukrainians are mining the roads.
Right.
And they're driving on those roads, and they're getting killed. And then, of course, the UAVs, these suicide drones are just absolutely. I mean, I saw one where a suicide drone actually flew into. When you dig a fighting position, you dig a fighting position armpit deep, you put overhead cover. Yeah. You will have a small little space where you basically have your sectors of fire.
Yeah.
And that's the only opening. The rest of the whole entire foxhole was closed off. I watched the drone fly into that little spot and explode.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you know, it is. They are schwacking Russians like
dude.
this is. I mean,
I
crazy.
wanted to ask you about the scythe. So we talked about this with Phil like last week, one of the two shows. I forget which one, but this is. Let me move off the Terra's logo, and I'll put yours in there. This is the scythe. This is a remote controlled gun on wheels that they are rolling in to these areas where Ukrainian soldiers do not have to die fighting Russians on their own land. They just roll this thing in and it operates like a gunner. And there's this secondary one, the smaller one in the background, which is a chain gun. And then this thing's like an artillery gun that shoots like bigger rounds. And there's like video of them just rolling into these areas just down the street and just firing into these sections, blowing up ammo dumps, shooting into those spaces like you were talking about. And you know, the air drone aspect of it is something we've talked about a lot, and how that, you know, because Russia does not have air superiority and because drones are so small, they're the X-wing to Russia's Death Star, right? But these things are the ground version of that, because they have the sea version, right? We now officially, with these things now added, have a Navy, an Air Force, and an army of drones, robots, effectively in these areas. Now, these are hand-driven. There's an operator. There's not really any intel, and there shouldn't be, on whether the operators have to be close by or if they can literally be done from Lviv. You know, they can just connect up to it. Yeah. They see the terrain, off they go. Let
me tell you that, you know, in combat,
mm-hmm.
you know, when I was in the 82nd Airborne Division in the 325, we had one company in our battalion that was an intelligence company. And the intelligence company dealt with human intelligence, also had drones.
Yeah.
And our guys would literally, you know, you had our soldier with the drone that was literally like they just launched it with their arms. They would throw it, and then it would climb. And once it got to like 1,000 feet, it automatically was taken over by a person sitting in a building in Texas. And that person was flying the drone and was sending us back the intelligence. You know, that's why I tell people, everybody's like, oh, these kids today, all they want to do is play their video games and stuff like that. Look, I'm telling you, these kids today are some of the most lethal people on the face of the earth when it comes to things like the UAV fight. When this war is over with, and it's going to end, Russia cannot continue this forever.
No.
They've already lost 520,000 troops.
That's right.
But I'm going to tell you, when this is over with, Ukraine is going to have one of the top 3 militaries on the face of the earth. Yes. Besides the fact that they are really, really good at what they do because they've had to become really good at what they do.
Right.
But the capabilities that we have provided them, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a stupid move for anybody to ever mess with Ukraine when this is over with. And they are getting highly trained. You know, we've got a brigade right there in that area that is training every single Ukrainian that comes into Poland, you know, and we're sending them back out, you know, and they're going back out and they're making it back to the battlefield, and they're using their training, and they're swacking Republicans. And it's not just like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, if they lost more troops in 8 days than we lost in 20 years of war. And that's both Iraq and Afghanistan combined.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
The volume, the number of dead is just, it's staggering. And we breezed right past that 500,000 mark. And honest to God, the only thing that ever slowed it down was the Republican intransigence in the House, you know, and a little bit in the Senate to try and, you know, deny them the ability to fight back. Right now, as of June 12th, 521,830 dead or permanently removed from the battlefield, legless, armless, as Trump would say, faceless. And I think what you were talking about especially is that when you go to, where is it, special equipment, vehicles and fuel tech, this different, the Kiev Independent puts it differently, but there's armored transports. You could tell by the volume of the armored transport how many people they're killing, because they're literally killing Russians in these trucks on their way to the front.
Yeah, and it's like, it's embarrassing because like Russia was like, the T-14 tank was supposed to be this big, awesome. It's a T-62 with a little bit more armor on it, and it's not. The capabilities are not really that great. The fact that well, this is another thing too. This is what happens when you have a dictatorship, and Russia's a dictatorship. Vladimir Putin does not care. And Vladimir Putin has even went so far as to stop bringing the Russian bodies back in to Russia, because he doesn't want to deal with the number of losses, because that could potentially cause a serious riot that could end up we could have another Ceausescu event that happened in Romania. But to me, this is one of the things is dictators don't look at people like that. Dictators look at the people as pawns in their game, and they have no problem sending human waves. China sent human waves at American troops during the Korean War. Dictators do not have a problem sending human waves. And we've got a person that wants to become a dictator and be at the head of the table in the United States of America. And this is one of those things that you better be careful. You watch this guy. Here is a man who literally is pumping up Vladimir Putin. And Russia has been our number one adversary for as long as I have been alive. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we've got Republicans right now that are standing on the side of Vladimir Putin. We've got a person running for the presidency who is the worst human possible, that literally is in this race, and it's a close race.
Right.
I mean, that right there is what tells you how dangerously, poorly or dangerously educated we are. Mm-hmm. The fact that we could have so many people in this country that have come up through our education system that still fall for this bullshit. That think that Donald Trump gives a shit about them. When, oh, by the way, he literally said, I don't care about you. I just want your votes.
That's right. Yeah. So, and I was there at that rally. I don't know if you saw, but I went down to that fucking place. And I got to say, if the guy that was in line next to me, and I have no reason to believe he wasn't indicative of everybody else, there was these two ladies in front of me and this guy in particular that I spoke to while I was there. And the ladies were just kind of like chirping over their shoulder, just kind of, whenever a topic came up that I was talking about that they didn't particularly like, they would try to throw something back, but never really forcefully. But, I would guess if you pushed them, they really believed everything this dude was saying. He was straight up flat earth. Sun revolves around the earth. All gays are pedophiles. Russia is strong because they're keeping the gays out. It is just like that's why Putin's strong, is because he's trying to stop the Western value of gay from getting into his country. The other thing was, and this comes up a bunch, and you and I both coming from rural areas, we see this a bunch. It's a talking point in the South and in the South adjacent, which is like, everybody in this fucking country is a dumbass except me.
Yeah.
Right. Every one of these motherfuckers. This dude, after spouting all this shit about the sun revolving around the earth and all kinds of stuff like that, his fallback on voting and why you shouldn't make voting easier was because most people in the country are stupid. And like the lack of self-awareness from this motherfucker was staggering. Like it was hilarious and a fucking waste of time. There's no there, but
I'm going to tell you that our education system has been under attack for 4 decades.
Yeah.
And this is what it is. I guarantee you that the one thing that almost everybody at that Trump rally had was a high school diploma. And I say that because when I retired from the military and I ended up spending 4 years in the classroom working in high schools, and I was a JROTC instructor.
Yeah.
And JROTC is a lot more than military stuff. We teach kids conflict resolution, all kinds of things.
Right.
But I learned
Team
a lot
building.
of things while I was there. Yeah, I learned a lot of things while I was there. And one of them was no child fails. We cannot allow a child to fail. And a big reason for that is every single year, at the end of the school year, one of the things that the schools use that says, we're the best, is we've got 100% graduation rate.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you that there was this one knucklehead kid. And I think it was like the second or third week of high school, I caught him dealing friggin' marijuana in school.
Right.
And he was expelled. So good riddance. He was an oxygen thief. I don't give a shit. You know, not all kids are precious. Some of them are assholes too.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you that on graduation day, I show up. All the kids are lined up down the hallway in their caps and gowns, and I walk down to shake hands and congratulate everybody on their accomplishments. And lo and behold, bam, there he is in a cap and gown. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Mm-hmm. And then I went to the principal and I was like, what is this? And she told me, nobody fails, 100% graduation rate. So, you know, I'm going to tell you, a lot of those people at those rallies are like that kid. You know, they didn't try in school. They didn't do shit in school. Mm-hmm. They were pains in the ass, and they were basically given a daggone high school diploma because we don't let nobody fail anymore. And that's one of the reasons why we have a significant amount of people in this country that have a high school diploma that read at a third fucking grade level. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem that we have in this country. And Republicans have done that because poorly educated people are easily duped, and easily duped people will vote for you.
Right.
That's where we're at today.
Well, I think it's a confluence of things, as most things are, because there's a tremendous amount of complexity in how a system is created and maintains itself. And on the one hand, you have Democrats who, for a long time, have tried to create a ballast point for public education where the schools are not predicated on the tax base of the local housing, so that poor kids in poor areas get access to the same materials, even if they can't find quality teachers because nobody wants to live in Appalachia that has an education or something like that. At least they can have the materials and like they can pay people a little extra to go into those areas so that it brings them in there. And that's that. Like, Democrats have tried to raise that base. Republicans have tried to undercut it at every possible chance because they do want that voter base of uneducated, and they want, by the way, blue collar, non-union trade workers, people who are not manual skilled labor is the bane of their existence. Never mind white collar shit. The blue collar people who have a specific difficult fucking trade, your plumbers and your like civil engineer types, and your anybody who could frame a house and that kind of shit, who they might not have gone to college for it, but they damn well are as smart as anybody who did because of the quality of what they're doing. Yeah, mechanics is another one.
Look at what they did. Look at what they've done to inner cities. They've taken vocational completely out of the inner cities. So a kid that grows up, oh, by the way, most likely a kid of color, from light brown to dark brown, they grow up and we take away the capabilities, the vocational capabilities, electricians, welders, HVAC, plumbing. We remove those from the inner cities because why? Because young black kids, young black boys and girls may want to do something with their lives when we don't offer them shit. You go into the inner cities and it's lottery stores and
liquor
stores. Yeah, but we don't provide any capabilities. But they don't have a problem going into these poor inner city areas and taking away all capabilities. And then they want to know why is the crime rate so high? If you teach a kid properly and you put them on a path for success, that success will keep their nose clean. When a person has a good job that they can put food on the table, pay their bills, take care of their families, it's a thing of pride. When I joined the military, and I'm going to tell you, I was like Richard Gere in An Officer and a Gentleman. I didn't have nowhere else to go.
Right.
I was a tyrant when I was younger. And I'm going to tell you that the military, once I got in the military, I learned that if you do what you are told and you are willing to make sure that you meet these standards, and if you can exceed the standards, you do so on everything that you do, you are going to be rewarded for your work. You're going to be promoted for your work. And I ended up making a 24-year career out of it and loved almost every single minute except the last 2 years where I was in recruiting, and there's nothing worse than friggin' recruiting. So, yeah.
Well, and again, the same thing I would argue applies to rural Tennessee, rural Kentucky, and the like, where they don't want vocational programs in there either. They fight that all the time. Now, those programs have gotten in there because they're happy to cut the ribbon. If they can't stop it, they'll show up at the fucking ribbon cutting of the new fucking mechanic school or the branch of DeVry or whatever the fuck shows up there. They'll be glad to pat themselves on the back for it existing. But it's against their business model, because the difference is, somebody who learns about as much you can learn in fucking shop class and no more. Their job prospects, even as a mechanic or in construction or any of that other stuff, is simply a body. Like they're not the irreplaceable person on the team, which is what a vocational education gives you. You're the irreplaceable person on the team or in the neighborhood in terms of being the plumber of choice or the electrician or any of that shit.
And let me tell you that unions have apprenticeship programs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this. You don't have to take shop when you're in school because, like I said, most schools are getting rid of that stuff.
Right.
But if you agree to go through the apprenticeship program at a carpenter union, they will pay you $22 an hour. And this is when I was in West Virginia.
Yeah.
They were paying $22 an hour for you to be a student.
Right.
And the moment that you are done with the apprenticeship, you get your certificate, you are certified in whatever, you automatically belong to the union. You get put into the union, and the union finds you work immediately. Let me tell you something. That's a big deal. And for people out there that don't know that, let me tell you something. That's a fact. If you got a young son or daughter that doesn't really know what they want to do, look at these apprenticeship programs.
Right.
But now you also know that it was my speech when I was a senator in West Virginia that started the teacher strike back in 2018. Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you that what I saw and how the Republican Party in West Virginia treated those teachers and school service personnel.
Right.
They wanted to give school service personnel a raise that was literally like $12 a month.
Sure.
$12 a month. Wow, amazing. Not raising your hourly wage, but I'm going to give you $12 more a month. So $6 every payday every 2 weeks. And that's the thing, is that in places like West Virginia, in places like Kentucky, the teachers that live on the borders of that state, if they pay more on the other side of that border, most teachers will automatically run over there and basically get the same job, and now you're making $8 to $10 grand more a year because you're just across the fence. We need to have a national pay scale for teachers, and I'm talking about
minimum wage, effectively.
You got to have a bachelor's degree to be a teacher. Yeah. So a bachelor's degree is a requirement, and the first 5 years that you are a teacher, you're going to make this much money. And it's not going to be poverty wages. We need to pay our teachers more across the friggin' board. But you pay them at that wage for 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, they automatically get bumped up to the next bracket, which is the 5 to 10 year bracket. And it's a good bracket. It's a good pay. But what that does is if it's done national, then a person making a teacher's salary in California makes the exact same as a person teaching in West Virginia. The only difference is there's also a cost of living allowance because it's more expensive to live in California than it is West Virginia and Kentucky.
Right.
But if we did that, we would not have a problem with our teachers graduating from school and running off to other states, because why would they? They could stay in their home state, live close to their mothers and fathers. They could do their career and
teach in their community.
Teach in their community. I went to school with your mother. Now your child is one of my kids in school.
Yep.
I mean, that's a big deal, and that is important. But we have allowed for the education of teaching and school service personnel. Don't ever forget school service personnel, because you cannot start a school without a bus driver, without a custodian, without a cooking staff, without secretaries and special needs aides. So, if we can't do better for those groups, that's one of the reasons why we have so many people in this country that are so friggin' poorly educated. Because if they live in poor areas, the teachers that are worth a shit leave and they go teach elsewhere. And the teachers that stay, half of them don't even have they don't have diplomas. They got a teaching certificate.
Right.
And
they're permanent subs.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, I sit back today and I am so pissed at my education. Now, my college, I'm good. I got a master's degree. Mm-hmm. I'm a graduate of the Command General Staff College. I'm proud of my education. But I'm going to tell you that when I was growing up, my science class consisted of everybody had a book. And every week you had to open the book to the chapter, find you a picture in the chapter that you liked, and you drew it on a piece of paper and turned it in. And that was your grade. Oh. My world cultures class. And I think about, I've traveled the world. I've been to 62 countries. I'm getting ready to head back to Europe for another 30 days. To me, I have such a passion to learn about the cultures, the drinks, the foods, everything.
Yeah.
And my friggin' world cultures class, that should have been the easiest class in the world, because if you can't motivate kids to want to go see Paris, right, you're a friggin' moron. Yeah. My freaking world cultures teacher, when the bell rang, screamed, "Pole grade." And if you didn't speak for the entire class, you got an A. And if you spoke, if you made any noise, you got an F. That was my world cultures. That's what happens when you don't allow good teachers to stay local, because you pay them shit and you treat them like shit.
Right.
Teachers and school service personnel deserve to be treated way better. We should raise all of them. And once again, school service personnel, same thing. They go their pay brackets as well.
Yeah, I would argue that one of the reasons why the Biden administration, and specifically Joe Biden, has focused on this is forgiving the loans of teachers is sort of a backdoor way of doing exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is that if you can't get them to do a prorated system to deal with that debt over the 5 years till they've paid off their bachelor's degree, you can forgive the outstanding element of their loan in one fell swoop and allow them to move on from it and make their job, their wage livable quicker. They don't have to spend 7, 8 years, or maybe even 10 or 15, depending on the quality of the education that they got. And the interesting thing is, the more quality their education, oftentimes, if you're studying to be a teacher at Northwestern versus studying to be a teacher at Sayresville College or something in Kentucky, the expense is enormous comparatively. But the chances that if you're getting your teaching degree at Sayresville, you're either going to teach there or somewhere, you're going to get out. You're going to want to go, okay, now that I've got that, I'll go to a better school and then maybe I'll teach in school and stay in there. But if you're getting an education degree at one of the bigger schools, the idea is that you're going to spend a good period of your time, at least a third of your year, teaching, underprivileged kids, or going to a school there, or, being a principal at one of those schools eventually is the goal, because that's why you dedicated yourself to getting, going for the highest education you could in an education background in those areas. So forgiving those loans is a step in that right direction, which is why the Biden administration focused on them, nurses, EMTs, anybody who had leftover stuff and were in public service. My mom's a nurse, and like the amount of debt that a lot of nurses carry for a very long time is sort of absurd. Luckily now, in the last, since Clinton, essentially, there's been a tremendous drop in it, because Democrats have been focused on that ever since they bumped out the first Bush. And so they were able to okay, let's really make a difference here. And so that's one of the categories where we're always short on nurses. Let's make sure it's as easy and painless for them to get educated into it as possible. So the next is convincing people. Same thing with what you're talking about as far as vocational schools and the like. So absolutely.
Well, But it's also, I'm also going to tell you another big problem is that it's all about the schools being able to project into the communities that we're the best. Our kids score the best. I'm going to tell you, if you think that teachers are not allowed to inspire anymore. Literally, they're not allowed to inspire because they have to teach this certain block. And when I say teach the exam, I'm telling you, we've got teachers out there that do nothing but teach the exam, and you've got superintendents and members of the Board of Education that are like, yeah, this is it. We got to make sure that these kids pass this test. But once again, all you're doing is teaching the kids the test.
Doing at that low a bar, still Lauren Boebert got her GED. Do you know how fucking low rung the intellect and the care about being intellectual or care about the depth of thought or knowledge of history or politics and stuff that you have to just go, yeah, I can be a politician on my GED in this modern era. We're not talking about in the 1800s where any education was, today, they're not failing anybody, and she still had to get her GED.
Today, you don't need shit. You just need to get a good photograph in front of a Christmas tree with all your kids holding grenades and shit like that. And that's all you've got to do.
Right.
And when you think, right now, Lauren Boebert is running in the 4th Congressional District, Ken Buck's old district. And she's running against a guy by the name of Ike McCorkle. And Ike McCorkle is actually up by 14 points. Mm-hmm. And he's the Democrat. It's looking like he's going to win the primary. And she's probably going to pull off the primary, which amazes me because every day she sticks her foot in her mouth, and every time that they've had a debate, she has just been destroyed.
Oh my God!
I was talking to Ike McCorkle, his staff, because a good friend of mine is actually his campaign manager, and I'm like, you're talking about, when she walked out of that movie theater. And she started flipping the middle finger. Make no mistake about it. I love it when she said, I didn't flip nobody the middle finger. You're on camera.
Yeah.
You're on camera walking out doing this as people are escorting you out. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, how does people continue supporting this shit? Mm-hmm. I think that Lauren Boebert may be done. I think that if she wins the primary, I believe Ike McCorkle is going to beat her.
Agreed.
He's a retired Marine captain with the Purple Heart. Absolute great guy. But then I have to go across and look at the dumbest. We look at Lauren Boebert and think she's pretty stupid. I mean, actually, yes. She was gifted a GED from what I heard.
Yeah.
She didn't actually accomplish it. She failed it twice, and then they say gifted her one. Mm-hmm. But then you go all the way over to Georgia. And I mean, it's March to Trainwreck Green. And I'm telling you, just absolute, just stupidity that spews from her mouth. The hatred, and here she is talking about how she worships Jesus and then spews pure garbage out of her mouth. I don't understand how people like that continue to get elected. Because you know what? If you think it's funny, and you I just like to hear the crazy shit she says, then you are the problem.
Right.
I want education. I want educated people. I don't think that you should be allowed to run for office until you're at least 35. Because I believe that a person should have something to fall back on. And I mean, in terms of if you're going to push legislation, if you're a coal miner in West Virginia, then you've got a reason to be in the State House fighting for your job, for your friends' jobs, fighting for better opportunities for coal miners to not be screwed over by coal operators that don't give a shit. That makes sense. But when you got a kid that's 17 years old and he's a bright kid in school and decides, I'm going to run for the House of Delegates, and holy shit, the child wins. What are they bringing to the table?
Right.
I mean,
I agree. Here's what I think. I think there's they rely on, in a lot of these cases, the low hum of professional rebellion that happens in the United States. That there's people who are like perpetually hating anything the government does is like is like 80s mother-in-law jokes. It's such a low hum of accepted reality, even when it's not fucking true. Yeah, all these people, it's like the people who are like, I don't trust anybody. People are fucking stupid. I'm like, did you drive here? Did you drive through a fucking intersection? Did you trust that they'd stop at a red light? Because if you did, or you didn't, you weren't afraid they were going to cross the center line and just kill you randomly, like everybody on the other side of the street going the other direction isn't going to kill you. You drove here. You're a fucking liar. You do trust people all the time. You take their intellect for granted. You take the safety, security, and function of your country for granted all the fucking time. That's what you tell me when you say something like that, right? And specifically in that low hum, people come along every so often, whether it's fucking Ross Perot or Ron Paul or anything, and Ron Paul, all Russian support aside, there is there's like a bump beyond the bump that they were given. There's this kind of like, well, we need an outsider, and it's how Trump got in effectively. We need somebody who will shake up the system because I'm tired of the status quo. Those kind of like buzzwords that mean fucking nothing, by the way. That's like saying you have a plumber working on the plumbing of your house, and you're like, maybe we need an electrician in here to work on the water to spice things up. You know, maybe we need somebody with a different perspective. How about the people who have been working on plumbing for a long time, who actually know what they're fucking doing, handle that part of it? Or people who even give a shit, and never certainly somebody who goes, I don't think we should have plumbing in the house. Like the analogy in the Republicans is like on the Republican side is so fucking easy to paint because none of them give a shit. None of you and I are a babysitter that hates kids. Why would you hire a politician that thinks government needs to be shrunk down so small that Vladimir Putin could put it in his fucking pocket?
And a Congress that literally is only second in terms of the most do-nothing, legislature.
Yeah.
This second worst. And oh, by the way, when we say second worst, we're talking about, okay, how many votes or how many bills were passed back in the Great Depression? All right, there was 19. Well, we got 21. So hooray. Oh, by the way, 2 of those are friggin' renaming a friggin' like a bridge or something.
Right.
And one of them is a commemorative coin. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to these Republicans spew all this shit. Ain't none of them doing anything.
No.
None of them are pushing legislation to benefit any of their constituents.
Well, that goes to their attitude towards women as well. So, the idea that none of them will have a woman as a vice president, that ship is fucking sailed. Kristi Noem, even before she shot the dog story came out, she was never a possibility because Trump's never going to have a woman as a second who could take over if he croaks. It would panic the shit out of him. Republicans aren't going to vote for a woman. But it's interesting that in this kind of trad wife, like quiverful bullshit evangelical sidestep Christianity that they sell to themselves that has no basis in actual spirit at all, that they basically say we can put her in a position of power, but she can only say no. She cannot say yes to stuff. She's not allowed to craft real bills. A woman cannot draft our economic plan. A woman cannot create our budget. A woman cannot functionally create, a law that will be, permanent to the point where it could survive a test by the Supreme Court. That's not allowed. Her job, if we get her in there at all, is a placeholder to say fucking no, because that's all they do. Every woman that gets elected in there, it's all about them saying no. All they do is like, we need to stop everything that's being done. We need to stop it. We need to stop it. Now, Republicans have been the party of no for a while, but there was a bipartisan bill that was passed. Some people signed on to that. But any of the people who have any attention whatsoever, Marjorie Taylor Greene to Boebert, and through the spectrum of even the kind of like Victoria Spartz and, that crowd, all they're there to do is stop funding and stop bills and effectively be like a human filibuster because... Yeah. That you can tell them to do. The Heritage Foundation can give them a list of fucking bills and go, this is coming, don't let this through, or we're going to come after you. And so they can do that. But the Heritage Foundation is not bringing them anything other than sign off on these judges. That's the one area because then we'll put other people in that can say no to all this shit.
Yeah. That's
all they're allowed to do. Women are allowed to say no, except, I guess, in the bedroom or in a fucking hotel room or on a bus at Access Hollywood.
Yeah, and understand that we even have on camera a person talking about challenging the 19th Amendment. That's what gave women the right to vote.
Right.
You know, well, I just heard a guy 2 nights ago talking about we're going to allow interracial capabilities to be basically decided at the state level. Are we going to tell all of these people that are in mixed relationships and marriages that becomes null and void?
Yes.
I mean, we literally have people that are the most racist friggin' assholes on the planet that are going to hurt people.
Yeah.
And we've got people that are voting for these assholes.
Well, I again, look at, we've all seen Ginny Thomas, so we could see why Clarence might sign off on that law. Ironically enough, it's the only way he'll ever shake her. Is to throw everybody else on the fucking pyre, you know. But again, look at it from like Russia and China's point of view, because they're the ones who have been like boosting this through TikTok and other stuff, boosting these ideas and making these like loner dickheads who were about, you know, probably about as many of them that were in the Jonestown cult in this country, think they've got thousands upon thousands upon thousands of like-minded people. And they all get really fucking mad and confused. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene when she has these moments where she realized the country isn't buying what she's selling. She's livid. Because to her in her experience, everybody around her always is telling her, yeah, this is exactly how it should be. And she is so isolated. Like the vast majority, like we're talking like even about like gun registration laws. 80% of the fucking country is for stricter gun registration laws, right? One of the most shocking things about the Hunter Biden verdict was it was amazing to see Republicans all cheering for stricter enforcement of gun laws. And don't threaten me with a good time, but the point in her, you know, and these others, you know, there is this. They seem to have this illusion. There was a period in history, pre-civil rights era, where people like that could sit at a diner counter and say their shit, and everybody bought in. Everybody's like, yeah, you goddamn right, they won't come in here. That kind of stuff. Now that's not cool anywhere. Even in places where they think it should be, even in like they can't even pretend. They have to, you know, they got to use dog whistles and stuff like that, and it drives them crazy. When the Charlie Kirks of the world, you know, start saying the quiet part loud, and they're like, fuck, now they're gonna shut up, dude. They're gonna come after us. Like they didn't used to have to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And now they do. And that's progress. To me, that's progress. It's not solving it, but there was a period, and you and I both know this. There was a period when these assholes were too embarrassed to say that shit, and Donald Trump gave them permission.
Yep.
That's all he's been about. Is just.
And I believe that every single day, more and more people are seeing him for what he is.
Yeah.
You know, by the way, you know, if you want to sit and scream and say how the Justice Department is rigged, well, if it was rigged, it prosecuted Hunter Biden.
Right.
So how rigged is that?
Well, that's. Yeah, I got to let you go because Phil's waiting in the background. I want to thank you for being on. I think the next thing next time we'll talk, more than likely, we'll be discussing how they decided that before the sentencing or anything else, that the Hunter Biden trial was a show trial just to, you know, create contrast. And then ultimately, even though Biden says he's not going to pardon him, he is going to pardon him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I got news for you. He's never going to pardon his son. He might commute his sentence if he gets some fucking 10-year ridiculous sentence, which he doesn't deserve. I don't doubt that. End of his presidency, commuting his son's sentence wouldn't be that weird. But he's not going to pardon him. And that's the hard part. That's going to be the hard part for them to swallow. And the two things I've heard. Yeah, go ahead.
They want life for Hunter Biden, and they want a slap on the wrist for Donald Trump.
Right, so because America has a two-tier justice system, and they're afraid that it's going away. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Major. You're the best.
Hey, Major.
Hey, what's up, man? I always enjoy your show, man. I tell you, Sparks, I tell everybody, man, every time I come on this show, I leave smarter than when I got here. You're a brilliant brother. I love to hear you talk,
and you fire me up. So
Well,
I appreciate
You're a
it.
good man, Major. You're a good
Yeah.
man. Hey,
We love
I
you.
don't know if you're checking out my podcast, Major, but please do. On the Edge. Check it out, buddy.
On
Yeah.
the edge.
Yep.
All right,
On the
I'm gonna-
Edge. If you
I'm gonna
if
go
you want to
find-
learn what's going on here in Ukraine, we do
I'll-
about a
I'll-
45-minute
on.
we do about a 45-minute interview. We got 4 episodes out already. Buddy, if you want to get a deep dive into what's happening here in Ukraine, go check it out. Our first episode is about what Russians are doing to Ukrainian children.
Yep.
Our
gonna check it
second
out.
is about
They're talking in the
diplomacy.
background.
And
It's great.
our
Chat room.
fourth episode we just did was with Ben Hodges. So
That's
check
awesome.
it all out,
Honestly,
Major.
I'm
Yeah.
excited already, man.
Yeah,
All right, I see
love
you
it.
guys.
All right, be
All
safe.
the best to you.
Cheers. Thanks.
All the best to you.
All right, and give me 1 second, and I will bring in Phil in here and pop him into this into the guest room here, and we should be up in just a split second. Should takes it a moment to populate because it takes a little time. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Philip
Hey,
Bittner,
buddy.
host of On the Edge, his brand new podcast. Check it out on his YouTube channel. And I was talking about, with the major, just the casualty numbers that are ratcheting up, and the most recent report that really stood out to me was, and I'll see if I can find it, but it was essentially like Russia is on the verge of losing Crimea. This is the first time I've seen it in regular print in this country ever in this war. And it's happening now,
Well, yeah.
and it's largely because
Because
the
our
aid
press
went
sucks.
through. Right. Yeah, and
Our
Russia's
press
terrible.
sucks.
Yeah.
Our press corps sucks.
Right.
And they've been making hay out of doomsplaining this war, and everything is doom and gloom, and it's all going to fall apart, which was never the case, even in our darkest hours when we weren't getting aid.
Right.
But it was lucrative for them to sell the narrative that Ukraine was a failing war, even though they pulled out damn near all of their crews, which is why I started On the Edge. And they're fucking wrong. And I'm so glad I can swear and we're not on the radio.
It's nice, isn't it?
By the way, buddy, you'll notice I'm a little punchy.
Okay.
Because our lovely neighbors to the east decided to wake me up real early this morning with some explosions in the air, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
So my internal my clock is a little off, so I'm a little punch drunk. Anyhow,
me too.
Regardless,
so I drove back from LA last night. I left the whiskey a go at 1:20 in the morning, and
I feel your pain, my brother. I feel your pain.
I know you do.
You know, comedians and journalists, we're only
separated.
that far off from
Only
one
separated
another.
by deadlines. Like
Truth
we have a different
tellers,
kind of
baby,
deadline.
truth tellers.
That's right.
There you go.
So
and deadlines, and we know about deadlines, and we know about timing.
yes, that's right.
So I'm a little off.
Yeah, understood.
But you're right. You're right. It is becoming apparent to everybody. And this is the F-16 is not even in the air yet.
Yep.
And that's going to happen soon. But my latest episode of On the Edge was with Ben Hodges, General Ben Hodges. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it in its entirety, but we talk about that. We talk about Crimea and what that will mean when the Russians cannot ignore the fact that they are losing or that their dominance of the Black Sea is at risk because of this damn fool war of Vladimir Putin's, and that they've lost hundreds of thousands casualties for what? We're still potentially going to lose the Black Sea.
Yeah.
That's not going to play well at home.
Right.
And I think Vladimir's in trouble. I think Vladimir's in real freaking trouble when that happens. And I do think it is going to happen.
Hit that like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Phil and I get to talk twice a week, specifically around these things, Wednesdays and Saturdays for the radio show, to kind of catch up on this stuff and actually have a deep conversation. This is the show where you can swear. So to keep it on the air, please. Yeah, right. Fucking A. Hit that like and subscribe. And that's the easy part. Share out the show. All those kind of things really help. And share his podcast as well, On the Edge, if you can. And I'm sure you can.
Are you liking it? I think we're proud of it. We're proud of it.
I think it's great.
I think it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
I think our guests have been good.
Yep.
I think the conversations have been good. We try to keep them around the 45-minute mark.
Yeah.
So that it's digestible.
Mm-hmm.
And I give as much as I get from my guests.
Yeah.
It's my show. It's my platform. So I
damn straight. Exactly. It's nice, isn't it?
So I get to yap.
Yeah.
I get to yap, and it ain't Twitter, so I can control the
narrative that you want to express.
Reply.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. It's my shop, my house. Yeah. Welcome to it. And I will not put up with any, bullshit from the trolls and the Russian bots out there. So, it is decidedly pro-Ukrainian. I don't shy away from that fact.
Right.
But we do try to, actual analysis of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't constrain ourselves, but we are generally going to be very pro-Ukrainian on that.
Yeah, of course. I gotta say, hold on. Let's see if I can bring this up so we can look at it, because this is one of those.
By the way, we don't have any power. I'm on battery power, by the way.
Okay, so
our lovely friends keep attacking our energy sector.
Right.
So I am on a combination of a hotspot off of my cell phone and a good. Look at the size of that.
Thank you, Nathan.
How do you like that?
Oh yeah.
How do you like that, huh?
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Store it up.
Yeah.
When you have to.
That's how we live.
Yep.
It's how we live. It's how we live in Kiev. We live
completely understand. So
we live off of things like this.
Yep.
This battery unit, but they're not going to stop us. They're not they're not. The thing the Russians don't understand is that they can't bomb us into submission.
Right.
You can't beat somebody into loving you.
Right.
So we'll power through. It sucks.
So
we'll power through.
There is one particular area. I'm glad you're here because it's kind of happening as breaking news. But Armenia is going to leave the CSTO. So that there is a fight. There is a fist fight going on. I'll show you. Oh shit! Here we go. There's a fist fight going on in the Armenian parliament right now.
Wow!
Where because there are protesters outside. Here it is. Hold on, I'll show you.
Of course there are.
Yeah. These guys. This is the prime minister. It's a parliamentary meeting. This is where it all started. There's a bunch of guys. This is him, and they're like, look at this. Don't you shove me. I fell into you. No, you fall into me. We fall into everything. I thought this was trust games. Just smackety smack. So anyways, this is kind of just happening. And, Armenia's been this kind of vassal state, I guess, and Azerbaijan have been in this kind of Russia's crosshairs for a long time. But they are officially...
Over Nagorno-Karabakh, yeah.
Yeah. So this is... here, I'll show you. This is just kind of breaking news that Armenia will leave.
The empire is collapsing.
Yep.
The empire is collapsing.
So the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which is the Soviet version of NATO, essentially, right, is the post-Soviet version of NATO. Yeah, where after Russia fell apart, they created their own counter NATO, which expanded itself. By the way, let me tell you something, you fucking NAFO NATO motherfuckers. Listen here. Never mind the 1997 Russia NATO founding agreement that gave everybody the right under NATO to join NATO if they want to or not, including Ukraine. That's what that fucking thing says. right? But the Russians, right after they fell, after the Soviet Union fell, they formed the CSTO as a counter to NATO. And you know how they expanded it? They invaded fucking countries. They forced their vassal states into it, or they were going to cut off all funding because they weren't. That none of these countries were at the point where they
were
could
all
float on
client states.
Yeah, they were all client states. So,
states.
and they were relying on the Soviets for food and energy and logistics and their anything they had in terms of satellite, pipelines they were all repaired through Russia. So they were controlled by them. And then invading Georgia, invading Ukraine. This is an attempt to expand the CSTO to countries that didn't want to be in it.
Yep.
That's the point. So
it's empire.
Everybody was like,
it's empire. It's Russian empire.
They
it's
promised
Moscow
us
empire.
they would move 1 inch further. Okay, everybody who joined NATO on their own. They had to request to be members. They had to be approved by the other members. The CSTO was expanded by force, you fucking tanky pricks.
By hook or by
Other
crook.
than that, I have no opinion.
By hook or by crook. Yeah, no, and if they didn't... get persuaded by their soft power of like, we're not going to give you food.
Yes.
Then the second thing was suddenly there are a bunch of guys getting briefcases filled with dollar bills. Y'all.
They bribed your leadership or killed them.
And if that didn't work, people started going out of windows. And if that didn't work, 2008 Georgia.
Yeah.
So
that's
what Russia is.
Yeah, and Chechnya was basically them encircling other countries to try and get them to feel like they had to join. Like the CSTO is, and okay, so they
don't do polite.
No, they don't. But also, if you'll notice, Trump has this thing like it's always projection, right? And the Russians do that. A similar kind of thing. But what they do is if we're about to, let's say they're about to go on a stabbing fest where we're going to have a bunch of our agents out there stabbing people. Before we institute that tomorrow at noon, today we'll release a thing that the West is the stabby group. They've been stabbing people forever. We will release story after story that are fake, by the way, but just that they're the ones who stab before we send out our people to stab people. Like that's how it operates. It's a narrow analogy because it's kind of close to what they actually did with like assassinating people in Germany and England and all these other fucking places. So like it's no different. Well, the other thing is this whole NATO expansion storyline you've heard is because they were expanding the CSTO by force. And so they were pre-bunking pre-attacking the people telling the reality that the CSTO was expanded by force, and they're going, no, the NATO's expansion. That's why we're afraid. We have to do stuff because we're afraid NATO's going to kill us. So like they set the story up ahead of time.
How many times do I have to say this? How many times do I have to say this? How many times have I said this to your audience before, Hal? NATO didn't expand east. The east came fleeing west. We didn't go east. The second they got out from Moscow's thumb, were like, they're gonna come back. Protect us, please.
Right.
We know these fuckers. We know what they're going to do. It's only a matter of time when they get their shit back together after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Eventually, they will come back.
Yeah.
That's why they joined NATO voluntarily. It's bullshit.
Just like the same reason Finland and Sweden did it. Now here's the part that's going on. Yeah, I know. And they're taking the amount of, I gotta love this, like the amount of stuff we take for granted when our government is actually running normally. Joe Biden is one of the most wonderful things about his presidency that I just find so much joy in is its functional normalcy. That just getting back to knowing who your fucking enemies are and knowing who your friends are and treating them accordingly and recognizing that there are gray diplomatic areas that are going to take a lot of work and they're boring and they just take a lot of time and there's nothing going to like magically coin flip. No one's going to miss the stroke of the pen fallacies out the window. There's no Trump going, I could solve this in 18 minutes, whatever, which is, I guess, 3 times as much, 3 times as many minutes as he spent on Stormy. None of that. It's going on in the background, right? It's always working.
And our press corps thinking that they can explain centuries of conflict between Ukraine and
Right.
Moscow in a minute 45.
Or they're trying
2
not to
minutes
even
15.
bother. So this is the part of
don't
that
even
story.
bother.
That's the part of the story that I'm showing here that stood out to me. The announcement of Armenia's withdrawal, this is the blue area, from CSTO comes just a day after the country and the United States revealed the initiation of a strategic partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, the Blinken and his team, under the guidance of Joe Biden, floated in there and scooped Armenia out from under Russian influence while Russia was busy getting its ass kicked over some beachfront property. Fucking A. Way to go.
And the
Joe.
Armenian diaspora is going to love that.
You
that
goddamn right. Everybody
diaspora in America.
Everybody except Anna Kasparian, who has to pretend it's not good.
Who has to pretend that, well, it's good for Biden.
Home,
so it
has to be bad for everything else.
But yeah, it has to be bad for everybody else. So Kasparian won't go for it. No. But you know, Sonia Movsesian over at Conan will be very happy. No, look, the Armenian diaspora is not a small thing. It's mostly located in Southern California, so it's not really going to tip the scale enormously. But there are a good bunch of Armenian communities in the Midwest, in Illinois, in Michigan. You know, maybe their ballots. But regardless, even aside from the effect at the ballot box, it's still good to see. You know, fuck Moscow, fuck Russia. You know, the more that their empire frays, the better it is for everybody, including Russians themselves. You know, I have let me see if I can share something with you. Now, I've never done this before.
Very exciting.
Bear with me. Let's see if I can figure. Yeah, right. Let's see if I can. Oh, nope. That's not what I wanted to do.
That's all right. It can happen.
That's not what
you can share a screen in there. You can share a screen and I can put it up.
What I'm trying to do, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is how I'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's see if I. Whoa.
Don't worry. I'm not going to post it yet. There you go. Just find
Here we go. Okay. Found it. This woman.
Okay.
Here we go. Have you got her? Do you see her?
I do, but don't play it yet. Then I'll put it in the news area. It'll take me a second.
It's in Russian. It's in Russian, so I'm going to translate here. You can see it. The translation is in there, but this is one of the first times I have actually seen a Russian expressing this opinion, and I think it's worth noting.
Okay.
You ready?
No, give me 1 second. I will move this over to here.
Sure.
I just got to do a little cleanup so we can see it and still see you.
It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth. Well, you don't need to see my ugly mug.
That's the spirit. Okay, and then we turn off this guy. And
by the way, I've got a Shirley Temple. Can you believe it? I know I'm regressing. I'm finding pleasures in my childhood.
Sure.
You know.
Oh, my son's a huge fan. Yeah.
Hey, you
I loved him when I was a kid.
In a situation like this, you take the pleasures that you can find.
That's right.
And I was in a store and I found some grenadine and I was like, I'm gonna make some Shirley.
You know what's really good? And it's only really available in Europe is the red currant and black currant syrup that you can add to things. You add that to like plain soda. When I was in London with Marianne Williamson and her daughter, when I was effectively like the dude, I was
get that squash, that black currant squash.
I was the manny.
Yummy.
And so I would make her as a treat. I would make her a soda,
a black currant.
Yeah, black currant or red currant soda. There using just like sparkling water and that. It was a treat for the day. Okay, so this is this woman. Okay,
you got it.
Yep.
All right. So now she's speaking in Russian and there are English subtitles, but basically she says, if you were born in Russia, it's the same as being born. It's saying you're proud to be born on a Tuesday.
Russians, calm down. You're not a super nation. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no grandeur. Currently, we are the occupiers of our foreign territories. We brought endless suffering to the Ukrainians. The ones who lands the majority of us currently have relatives. Attacking someone smaller than you, killing civilians on their territory is not heroism. We are committing crimes for which we will be held accountable. Ooh, damn. All right. And she's just walking around.
Yeah.
She's fucking allowed to say that.
I don't think she's in Russia. I think she's outside of Russia.
Probably,
Otherwise, I don't think she'd be saying this.
Sure.
She'd be grabbed up. This is getting a lot of traction online, but I think she's somewhere in Scandinavia, judging from the houses behind her. Our soldiers are the ones who shed blood all over the Ukrainian soil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There we go. You chose to believe the old fart from the bunker. You believe the propaganda. That was, I guess she means Vladimir Putin. Is he the old fart from the bunker?
Yep. He's the old fart in the bunker.
Instead of using your common sense, you believe propaganda instead of common sense. In 2014, these are the troops that violated the state border of Ukraine. It's been proven. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's Gurkha together with the RF army couldn't violate the border of the sovereign state of Ukraine.
This is very interesting because Gherkin Strelkov, the guy's name is Gherkin. He was the head of the
pickle king of Chicago. Sorry. Yeah.
He was the head of the militia in Donbass in 2014. When it all kicked off, which gave them the pretense or the pretext to start this kind of separatist movement. And she's pointing out the fact that was artificially created by the Russians. I mean, this is, you don't hear Russians saying this.
She's being really fucking direct.
Yeah, man, this is like, really gutsy.
She sounds like Jimmy Dore's ex-wife. All right, go ahead. There would not have been a war right now. Ukrainians chose their country's president not once in 25 years like we do. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Damn. Do you even realize that in Russia there is the same subhuman that's been ruling you for 25 years? Subhuman. She's called Putin subhuman. I mean, it's true.
Yeah, she did.
Zing. There's at least another 6 years of totalitarian regime ahead of us. Yeah, she's saying us.
He just got reinaugurated. Well, no, she still considers herself a Russian. I mean, look, the head of this video at the top says, "My Russia is a terrorist." My Russia.
Yeah.
She's a Russian patriot.
Yeah.
But you don't hear this. You don't hear this.
Totalitarianism is a political regime that stipulates an absolute control of state over all the parts of public and private lives. Yeah, that pretty much describes it. I feel like this is one of those things that, like, if I don't know if Marjorie Taylor Greene saw it, she'd just go, "Fucking A, right it is." Many of those who went to fight in Ukraine were born during the rule of the mad old man and are dying following his orders. Yep. Let's see, what is it?
This is good.
Yeah, Ukrainians have the right to choose with whom to be, Russia or Europe. Agreed. Their choice
is with Europe.
Yeah, they don't want to have anything in common with us, and I understand them perfectly.
Now listen to this.
Okay. We can't hear it. We just watching it. So you're hearing it, but I don't think we are. So we're just,
Sure.
It's impossible to make someone love you. It's impossible.
What have I been saying this entire war?
Yeah.
What have I been saying this entire war? Once the bombs started dropping, once they started killing Ukrainians, you crossed the Rubicon. You can't. It's that old thing of it being in an abusive relationship or a marriage, and the abused member, of the couple, decides to leave. Once they've decided to leave, you can't smack them back into loving you, and that's exactly what she is pointing out here.
Yeah. We've used the abusive
stuff coming.
We've used the abusive partner analogy, and it's very the parallels. Yeah, really strong. Right.
Yeah.
Be next to killers, rapists, and criminals. We are not worthy of forgiveness by those whom our nation is depriving of future.
Ooh.
Yeah. In history books, Russians will be the ones described as the occupiers and aggressors. True. Fact check, true. Yeah. And then as the criminals, marauders, and rapists. The war in Ukraine can be followed practically online, simply turning off the propaganda box and turning on thinking abilities. So they still have access to YouTube and shit in a lot of Russia. Someday you and your descendants will be uncovering the common graves.
Oof.
Yeah. You'll have to realize that you were an accomplice to killings of thousands of Ukrainians peacefully living on their lands.
It's powerful stuff.
This
is a Russian.
Yep. Until we decided that they are the Nazis. However, in reality, Russians are the Nazis.
Yeah, we decided to attack Ukrainians peacefully living on their own land when we decided they were Nazis, but really we're the Nazis.
We're the Nazis, right. In my opinion, it's very strange to be something. Okay, the nation became an outcast in the entire rational world. True. And precisely happened because of the supporters of the Putin regime like you. So she's talking to a specific person she's hoping will watch this.
Her fellow Russians.
Yeah.
You know?
So here you go. Yep. And let me show you real quick here. This is another side. Russian gas giant, this is Gazprom, production plummets to historic low. The Russians, let me tell you something, folks. The Russians have lost $140 billion a year in natural gas revenue. They are down to 30 billion, somewhere between 30 and 40, depending on what numbers you believe, where they were at 200-ish for a very long time. They're down to 140 since the beginning of the war, since right before the beginning of the war. 140, they've lost 140 billion. That is their entire military budget. That's their entire GDP. And
you also have to understand
the government.
You also have to understand that Gazprom is not just another company.
Yeah,
Gazprom is like it.
It's like the Saudi Aramco.
Massive.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's their biggest earning company, and it made its largest ever cut in natural gas production as the war in Ukraine continues. Why?
And it's operating in the black.
Yeah.
Or sorry, in the red.
In the red, yeah. Now, here's the other thing. Why would that happen? Why are they cutting that production? Oh boy. Check this out. Russia and China gas pipeline deal stalls over Beijing's price demands. So when you build a pipeline to another country and you are supplying them with natural gas or oil or anything else, your fucking mayonnaise, I don't know what you're sending through there, but you make an agreement with the country that wants your natural gas or your oil or your mayonnaise, and they will pay for the pipeline, they build it. So and then they make their money back in cheaper gas that goes through the pipeline. Instead of having it shipped, they save money on it, and it kind of balances out, right? Now there's two problems with, and it's called the name of the pipeline is the Power of Siberia 2, which just like as a name just sounds fucking stupid. You know what I mean? It's but anyways, so they've been trying to get this Power of Siberia 2 thing going. But China is getting all the natural gas they want from Kyrgyzstan by way of Kazakhstan. They don't need any more. They don't even have the capacity to hold it. That's the other thing, is that the Chinese are terrible at energy storage. They were using so much of it, they never built an infrastructure for planning that their economy would fail. So now that their economy has failed, they're like, okay, we might need this later, but we got nowhere to put it. And so they're like, nah, thanks, we're good. And what China wants is they want Russia to pay for the pipeline and build it, which they don't have any money. They lost $140 billion in their fucking, that's what what do you think that money would be for? They don't have any. And the Chinese,
their entire economy is doing
fucked.
One thing and one thing only now. Their economy is, and they're so proud of how quickly we shifted to a war economy. Yeah, great. Now you can't build a pipeline
fucking
because
brilliant.
you're on a war economy.
Oh, it's so good.
Genius move, guys.
flashback, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, to times when you saw Phil and I on here wailing and gnashing of teeth about the Ritters and the Doors of the world, who were saying that Russia's, or even fucking Newsmax for that matter, Russia and China, we've thrown Russia and China into each other's arms. Joe Biden has created the perfect storm where China and Russia are now, helping each other out and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And what did I tell you would fucking happen?
Right.
What the fuck did I tell you? What did I tell you? This what I told you. What the fuck did I say? Right. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not gonna happen. It's never gonna happen.
It feels good to be right.
Oh, it so feels good to be right.
They're so fucked. They're
so fucked. Okay, so and by the way,
and by extension, look, you and I have talked about this house so many different times. Yeah. And again, I recognize that we are very much, spraining our arms for all the patting on the back we're doing. But damn it, sometimes it feels good to be right. And we have discussed so many different times the fact that autocracy and the concept of autocracy has had a kind of a high watermark moment here with, the Russians were able to install a moron autocrat in the White House, and that's about as far as they're going to go, because people don't like living under autocracies.
Well, and
they don't like it.
Well, here's the other thing is, and this is all for all those BRICS motherfuckers out there. The one thing about autocracies is that by their very design, they are antithetical to partnerships. They are literally against partnerships in their own fucking country. Why the ever-loving shit would they partner except for a shared war with someone temporarily where they're just agreeing to kill the same people? Why would they ever engage in economic cooperation? It is the opposite of what they're trying to do with inside their country. Why the shit would they share their revenue outside the country? It's ridiculous. It doesn't work.
I can't wait. I can't wait for you to watch episode 6.
Oh yes, okay.
Not this Sunday, this Sunday, but the following Sunday. This Sunday is episode 5. Episode 6, you're gonna love because we talk about this exact topic, and they're just
now.
There's no good future for them.
There's no way out.
There's no way. They've set themselves on a course.
Yeah,
and they can't veer off of it.
No, check this out.
It would be catastrophic.
So this is, and by the way, fuck Temu. It's the TikTok of sales. It's the Amazon version of TikTok, or the TikTok version of Amazon. Adding to the bad news, Gazprom's annual report released Monday. Again, released Monday. Understand, these are not my numbers. These aren't Phil's numbers. We didn't go out hunting to fuck with them or make something up. These are Gazprom's annual report numbers that they put out. All right. It had cut natural gas production by 13% to an all-time annual low of 359 billion cubic meters. This was down from 412.94 billion cubic meters the previous year, and a third less than the 515 BCM for 2021 in the year before the war. They were literally, they've been cutting the entire time to the point where they are always, by the way, the next time they report this, it's not going to rebound. It's going to be another drop. It's going to be another historic low.
It will also probably be exponentially larger because when these things start to implode,
they snowball.
They snowball.
Well, that's the other thing.
Oh God, they're so fucked.
Yeah,
fucked.
And with liquid, Russia
idea.
has a lot of natural gas just like we do, but you need plants. You have to build these giant facilities to turn that into LNG and sell it to other people. Well, first of all, the United States and fucking Qatar and Norway all jumped in when Russia was cutting off natural gas to Europe so that people wouldn't freeze, and said, we got plenty, here you go. And they sold it at a market price. They didn't stiff them. They didn't overcharge. They just said, here you go. You're at war. And
Qataris in particular. I mean,
super fucked. It was really weird. Yeah.
And that entire economy is built on LNG.
Right. So they the minute it was gone, it was immediately replaced, which was one of the things was like, oh, if they take this away, it'll take a decade. This was what the story was. It'll take a fucking decade to replace the LNG from Russia. No, it won't, because they were late to the fucking game. That's why the Russians and the Saudis got in this game of chicken to try and lower oil prices to the point where it choked off exploration by American energy companies in the United States to stop the fracking boom. They were trying to kill it in the fucking crib, and it didn't work. Now we have more of it than we know what to do with, and we're better at extracting it than any of them are, even though they've been doing it longer. It's fucking crazy. So, and it took a week. It took a week. It didn't take a decade. It took a fucking week. Biden they had boats going to Europe full of LNG in a week in 2022. And then, like I said, Norway, Qatar, all these other countries just went, oh, yeah, we'll just divert some of our stuff. We're good. We got big stores. And then everybody was like, hey, are your stores topped off? Because we're good. We can send you some of our extra or whatever. So the NATO, as a defense alliance, started, and all the surrounding countries were like, hey, we just make sure you got enough natural gas for the winter so your people don't freeze. Nobody did. Remember that story? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
You're going to be, you Germans, hey, watch out. You're going to have to be, you're going to be spit roasting the family hamster because you're going to be starving.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was actually, I remember that. They're going to be eating their pets. Right.
Literally.
Right.
That's not me making that up. That was Russia's propaganda campaign.
They said it on whatever the 60 Minutes show or whatever the fuck that was. Yeah, and on top of that, let me tell you, okay, so Trump always talks about how he talked to Angela Merkel and he said, I'm sending you a I gave her a white flag because she's waving the white flag because they get all their natural gas from Germany and you're fucked, right? You're up against this, and that's that you're waving the white flag. The opposite was true. The over-reliance on the German market by Russia was them waving the white flag. They were hoisted by their own petard. They literally got in a situation where they were so counting on their leverage on Germany and then on Europe for natural gas that no one would be able to extract them from that market, and therefore they would have more political control over it than they did, and then it just fucking evaporated. That's what happened. Russia waved the white flag by relying on the German natural gas market too much. It was the exact opposite of what Trump said. That's that part. It was funny because
all we have to do is stay the course.
Yep.
All we have to do is stay the course.
This motherfucker. He said that same stupid fucking white flag story the other day.
And when Russia is done, we will have a post-mortem.
Yep.
On
everybody 45. Involved with them. Yep.
Yeah. Fuck him. And we will. I've said this, and I know
his loans come due.
I feel like I've been screaming this in the wilderness, but he is compromised. 16 was a Russian information warfare campaign. We were attacked. It was not. I'm so upset about Israel's lobbyists on the Hill.
Yeah,
I'm upset about European lobbyists or Russian lobbyists or Chinese lobbyists. This was not about lobbying. This was an attack. It was an actual act of war. They invaded our body politic. They invaded all of our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Various conservative organizations. They attacked liberal organizations. They pitted one against the other. It was an act of war. It was an attack. When we get Trump in our rear view mirror, we will do and when Russia, loses its war here, it's all combined.
Yep.
When we get a postmortem, when we get it in the rear view mirror, we will see. I am convinced.
Yeah.
That we were attacked.
The depth of it
in 2016. Yeah. It was not some sort of innocuous, everybody kind of fools around with American politics. No, this was calculated. It was planned out. It was orchestrated by Russian military intelligence,
Yeah.
and they installed Donald Trump in the White House, and they are responsible for the deaths of millions of Americans because they gave us an incompetent executive during a real serious crisis.
Well,
So,
I mean, and again,
payback's a bitch, boys.
right?
but
Yeah,
it's
fuck
coming.
them. Yeah, and I gotta say, like, increasingly as we look at like Trump world, one of the things that first of all, we saw all during the Mueller report and all that kind of stuff coming out that Trump can claim like no collusion all he wants to, which is not what the report said. But there were a bunch of people went to jail and a bunch of Russians and Macedonians indicted during that process that we know for a fact during the 2016 campaign and even during the lead up to 2020 were forming like two Black Lives Matter groups, one against and one for, and then were instigating people to go and show up at events. They were hiring people to show up at events and dress as Hillary Clinton in a prison outfit.
And organizing,
organizing
a counter protest across the street.
Right.
Division.
Both sides.
They wanted to throw division.
And so many of these motherfuckers, these same like anti-Semitic pricks in Trump land, who if you if you back them into a corner, will say the Jews were on both sides of World War II. Like I guarantee it. Like there's the dude I was standing next to in line on the way to the fucking
your coverage
rally.
of the Vegas rally was fucking brilliant, man.
Dude. I was like, everybody else got these jokers online. I would just rather report on the facts on the ground. It was pretty helpful. I felt like after a while.
I appreciate it.
Closest thing to a truly viral.
There's no substitute for on the ground reporting, which is why I'm here.
Yeah,
and it's why I'm glad you were there.
Yeah. So I went to. Thanks, Dana. I went to that thing. The guy I was talking to in line clearly believes the Jews were on both sides of World War II. Okay. Meanwhile, while they believe that, we know for a fact Russia was on both sides of Occupy, was on both sides. And this does not denigrate the people who actually believed in the idea. That's not the point. That's like saying, both things
can be true.
Well, there were foreign influence payments to the Jonestown thing. Like he got help from outside the country. And that's one of the reasons why he moved out and why he was worried that the senator was going to show up and why they got all paranoid that the U.S. government was coming after him because he was engaging in money laundering and creating a fuck farm for himself, just like Koresh was. And sprinkled throughout all these major things are foreign influence dabblers just tipping the ball up a little bit. They may not be 100% behind it. They may not be the driving force there, but they tried out like little influence campaigns throughout. And the biggest, and they were all over Occupy. They're all over these campus protests, the Palestinian ones.
Now? Yeah, they're there now.
They're there now.
You can bet. I would put money on it. If I was in your town right now, I would go downtown, I'd go to the strip, and I'd put me a C note down on the fact that, of course, the Russians are involved in the protests that are going on university.
Yep.
It's not saying, people criticize me by saying like, oh, you see Russians everywhere. Well, it's not that. It's the fact that they consider themselves at war with us. So every potential attack that they can make, they will make. If they see an opening, they'll take it. And if they can find a way to sow more discord, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So there's not a doubt in my mind. I mean, look at Tommy Tuberville just this fucking week.
Yeah.
On what was it? Was he on Bannon's show or some shit like that? Where he was like, "Oh, Russia doesn't want Ukraine. They don't want weapons on Ukrainian soil."
Right.
You ignorant fuck. That is exactly
a Kremlin talking point.
A talking point straight out of what's called the aquarium. I don't know if I've ever mentioned the aquarium. Have I mentioned the aquarium?
No, he hasn't mentioned
the
ladies and gentlemen, gather
the
round.
Aquarium.
The aquarium.
Yes. Gather round, children. I'll tell you the tale of the aquarium.
Yeah.
It's not getting overly dramatic. The aquarium is what they call the headquarters for the GRU. Like what we would, we have the Pentagon. We have, the people. Sometimes people call Langley the farm.
Sure,
it's the same thing. For the GRU, the headquarters is called the aquarium. And that what Tuberville said on that whatever show it was he was on was straight out that's straight out of the aquarium, man.
Right.
That's straight out of the Internet Research Bureau. They're inside our body politic right now. Right now. They consider themselves at war with us, and they are acting accordingly. It's kind of what I talked about with Hodges on last week's On the Edge. I mean, we got to stop thinking we're not at war with Russia.
Right.
Not because we want to. Nobody wants to be at war.
Right.
We don't want to be at war with Russia. But the sooner we wake up to the fact that Russia thinks they're at war with us, and so by de facto just reality, we're at war with Russia because they think they're at war with us.
Right.
We have to wake up and recognize that this is happening, and it's not by our making. Putin decided to do this. Russia has been fed a constant diet of propaganda about how the evil West and how we need to restore our empire, and how don't worry about your lack of civil liberties. Don't worry about your financial situation. I promise you, I will restore Russia to its greatness, is what he has told his people. And he has gotten to the point where he can't simply say it's a domestic internal problem. He has to take it externally. And so he's been prepping for this for years. But the sooner we wake up to the realization that Russia considers itself at war, and so we are at war with Russia, not for our sake, but because they think they're at war with us.
It's weird.
The better. And again, this is what I talk with Hodges about. We gotta start pushing back.
Yeah, well, and
we
also
really
recognize
without
what's
hesitation.
genuinely going on, and you don't have to check everything you know about life at the fucking door because somebody is pearl clutching, because that's what ends up happening from the high right, and Russia relies on this. Is they we are an open country. That is our nature. And so therefore they can use that against us. It is exactly why they're behind, quite frankly, the support that Trump and his ilk are pushing towards abortion rights and the separation of the country into some states have these rights, some states don't. Because if you're fighting the United States of America, the easiest way is go directly after the title. Disunite the states effectively. And that's got to be the plan. Separation and division on a state level so that they're constantly territorial,
community
disputes. Yes. But specifically the state identity in the state identity in the United States is very strong, especially when you come to like Texas and Montana.
Economic dividing lines, racial dividing lines, anything that, as you say, it's a very good way of putting it.
Rights,
is to attack that United States, turn it into
so that's what the plan is. That's what that's what it's for. And you see that in the kind of stuff that they back. Again, they take divisions that exist, that have always existed, and they're going to exist until we have some sort of like maturation spray we could spray in everybody's face when they turn 18 that makes them union. But at a certain point, that until we cross that point, there will always be there, and they take those and they elevate them by boosting somebody's social media profile that has not earned it, by giving them a bunch of fake fucking followers that thrust them to the front. So the media
and the red meat that they know they can feed to certain communities. You look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look at her. I mean, she literally regurgitates line for line this kind of crap, and she gives it to these retranchivist freaking right wingers, and they gobble it up, not even knowing that they're being manipulated. We got to wake up, man. We got to wake up, and the election is going to be a big part of it. But we have to stay the course in Ukraine. We have to stay the course in in upkeeping our democracy, which is under attack. We're under attack. By the Russians. And, when we get November, done. And when we win, and when Trump is a thing of the past, we have to do, we have to have a strong look at what the Russians have been doing to us. And we really got to push back.
That's right.
Because what they've done to us is, and what they've done to the people of Ukraine, it's all one thing. It's
right.
this. It's Putin and his designs on, massively disrupting the globe so that Russia can achieve some of its, if not all of its goals, which are aggressively imperial and are on the offense.
Right.
So we need to punch them in the nose here in Ukraine, and then we need to take a big hard look at what they've been doing. And sorry, I hate to say this, but make them pay for it, because they killed lots of Americans.
I got to tell you, he already is. Like this is. I mean, you can look at. First of all, let's see if I can bring this up.
TikTok.
Yeah, right. There's a report that. Let's see, where is it? Trump under fire. Blah blah. The polls have shifted in the United States tremendously, from an 8-point to 10-point shift in some districts to a 4-point narrow margin within the margin of error, 3-6, to Biden being ahead in a bunch of areas. And the biggest shift that we saw in the polls since Trump was found guilty of this, and this will increasingly be a part of the storyline, is more people trust Biden with the economy than they do Trump now, by a 2%. Now, part of that is because things are getting better and people are noticing it and people are becoming more aware, and they're the drag of some of the economic problems that were caused by COVID are starting to wean a little bit, and they're starting to have a realistic view of the other ones that are outside the president's control, specifically the number of houses available in the country if you're going to buy one, and the fact that he's not telling the Fed what to do, which is what Trump tried to do, right? Is very distinct movement in that area. The other one, in terms of this will also go towards their feeling about Trump, because he was busted for fucking around with business, that he was falsifying business records, will add a percentage to the people who now trust Biden, because the other guy was busted. Why would you wouldn't trust him with your business? Why would you trust him with the country's business? You would not put him in charge of your business because you would be broke. If you had a casino and Donald Trump was a partner, you would lose your shirt. And meanwhile, there are these articles that are coming out about how Biden is the greatest oil trader in history and is singularly hamstrung OPEC Plus. I don't know if you've seen those articles. There's a big push about the idea that Biden, because he's doing the buy low, sell high thing with the strategic reserve, he kept oil prices stable during the most unstable period in oil, along its way. Never crested over 107, I think was the top, or 121 was the top, and then they jumped right back down when he did this, and effectively have never gone up. Like the Saudis were counting on $100 a barrel to pay off their sovereign debt, and they have given up on that. There was an article in Bloomberg that all the traders in the world are recognizing the Saudis are they've given up on trying to ratchet up the cost by lowering the output, and all the other OPEC countries aren't going to do it either. And so it's never going to be $100 barrel oil. It just isn't. They were hoping, they were trying to force it to happen, and they've given up. And the Russians are in the same kind of situation. They can't flood the market. They can't deny the market. Nobody needs their oil anymore. And if anything happens, if he gets toppled,
goes one way.
If he gets toppled, if let's say in the next year and a half, if Putin gets toppled and Russia just goes, hey, we'd like to sell oil again to repair us, and we're going to help Ukraine rebuild, they're going to flood the market with oil. The price is going to drop to like $20 a barrel. It's going to be ridiculous. They'll be on a short leash, but they'll be allowed to do some of it, right? They'll be able to trade with like Africa and other places that don't have a lot of money. There'll be a cap, but the cap won't, they'll loosen the cap to $70 a barrel, even though they'll never sell it for more than 45. But I mean, they're done. They're just fucking done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, again, with kind of all of this,
Yeah.
is that we're kind of, and I'm, this is a guy who's talking to you from a city where I woke up this morning to explosions in the air,
Right.
and I'm currently doing this, on battery power because our energy grid is screwed. We're not doing great right now, but we're on a one-way course. I only see one direction where this is, if we stay strong, and if we stay united, and we stay focused, and we don't let off the gas, as it were, take our foot off the pedal. We're going to defeat Donald Trump. We're going to defeat Vladimir Putin.
Yep.
We're going to see a lot of this autocratic bullshit and these guys who believe in thuggery as opposed to democracy, as opposed to liberal democracy, that they will have had their high watermark, and we're going to push back. We're not guys like you and me, Hal, and for I'm betting if you're here watching this, you feel the same way in the audience. We're not going to give up our democracies.
Nope.
We're not
to these assholes.
We're not just gonna give up to these
not
pricks.
On the cheap, right?
No. Fuck off.
Nope.
Fuck off. Both of you short little prick in the Kremlin, and you fucking orange bouffant fraud of a human being, Donald Trump. Fuck you. We're not giving our democracy to the likes of you. So we're not there yet. We got a lot of work to do, and we got to keep our nose to the grindstone.
And I will say,
sort of thing.
On that note, and I want to remind everybody,
we're on an inevitable course.
We are.
We're going to win.
I want to remind everybody to check out Phil's show and follow him on Shitter at Itner Phillip.
Yes,
over there. And then, of course, he'll post links to the episodes on there as well.
Every Sunday, we're very proud of On the Edge. Please do come and check it out.
That'd be great. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, brother, for coming on. Go get some sleep. I'm going to do the same. I have my regular show in the afternoon.
Shirley Temple, and then
that's right.
Yeah.
You're a hardcore party man. Look at this. Ease up there, man.
Yeah. I know.
Fucking bikers. Anyways, thank you, brother. I'll see you soon.
All right, buddy. It's always a pleasure. We'll talk on Saturday.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, Philip Bittner, check out On the Edge, and we will get you guys. We'll do kind of a, if we can on some of these Wednesdays, do a little bit of a recap so people can maybe there'll be a moment from On the Edge we can share, and that'll make people go. I think that's what I might try to do starting next week. But anyways, love you guys, and I gotta say it's fun being right all the time. It really is. Some people don't like it, but I gotta say I'm enjoying it. It beats the alternative. And now I've got to go and pass out. See you this afternoon. Hit that like on your way out if you would, please. Thank you. Please hit that like and subscribe if you could. Patreon.com/AlSparks. Good times. All right. And thank you, Leslie, for the Venmo. Appreciate it. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Deanne.